Hi, everyone. Landry Ethredge here with Ethredge Counseling Group. We have Dr. Etta Gant here to talk about OCD, which is something I think we hear a lot about, but don't actually know a lot about. It's something that I think pops up on social media quite a bit. It's sort of a slang, a common thing we might say, like, oh, that's that, I'm so OCD because of XYZ. But I don't think a lot of people really know what it is. So I'm so glad Dr. Edegant's here today to talk to us about it and help us kind of understand what it actually is and what it isn't. So welcome, Etta. Why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about maybe like the preconceptions or maybe the stereotypes uh,
hmm
that are common that you've seen?
Yeah. So a lot of people, or like the common stereotypes, are that OCD is just like being a clean freak or being type A, have to have everything a certain way and have to have the house or environment to be extremely clean. A lot of times people think people with OCD can't leave the house or are just like uber perfectionistic. Um, and the reverse is sometimes clients with OCD or people with OCD, their loved ones or people around them think that they just have anxiety when actually it's several notches up and away from anxiety. It's a totally different condition. And so people often think it means this one thing, or to the people that have it, they're maybe even invalidating their condition because it doesn't meet their preconceived notion of what OCD is supposed to look like.
Mhm. I'm thinking back to a good friend of mine. He won't mind if I say this, who was very particular about how his clothes were hung up in his closet. I think that's a very common one that would be like, oh, he's got OCD. When
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I don't think he had OCD. He was particular about how he liked his clothes in his closet, right? That those are
Yeah.
not the same thing. Being particular or
Mm-hmm.
type A, it really does not have anything to do with OCD. It could
Mm-hmm.
have, I guess, some overlap, but you're saying,
An occasional like compulsion, the like action part of the OCD could be needing to like have symmetry or order to feel like in control. Or there's the occasional kind of obsession or fear or phobia of like contamination and needing to be clean. But that looks very different than just liking your house to be super clean or liking your records in alphabet order or whatever it is. That's plenty of people just prefer things that way, and that's totally cool too.
okay, okay, so talk to us. Okay, first of all, what does OCD stand for?
Mm-hmm. So OCD stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, which segments the different parts of the condition very easily and helps you understand exactly what it is.
Okay.
So
Oh,
the O, the obsessive part, is where it might look like it's just anxiety because you see someone getting really wound up about something. Yeah. Um, Sorry, you froze for a second. Are we clear?
yes.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't like talking and it wasn't going. But so the O is when you have intrusive thoughts, which are anxious thoughts but turned up like 8 degrees. They feel very intrusive. They feel very disturbing. They feel unsettling. They're unwanted. And they're usually about things that feel like one of your biggest fears or totally misaligned with your values, or what you were told is, good or bad. These are things that have been associated with like bad often. And so examples of that are intrusive thoughts about your health. That if you feel a little bit off that day, you might think you have leukemia, or it's always like kind of going straight to like this panic
Mm,
response.
mm,
You might have intrusive thoughts about accidentally hurting yourself or hurting someone else, or just like a thought of if I hurt someone else or if I hurt myself. And by that I mean, suicidal or self harm, or it could just be if I trip and fall and hurt myself, or if I accidentally drop this and it smashes and it cuts me. It's kind of your brain just working out logistics of ways that could hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was intentional or not. But the fear of that thought itself, what if I hurt myself,
Mm-hmm.
is scary enough. Or it could be that you've accidentally hurt someone else, worrying that you hit a bump and you think that driving and you hit someone with your car. So those thoughts, once they come in, those intrusive thoughts, they are extremely overwhelming and consuming. They feel real, so your entire body is reacting, and this fight or flight experience of truly feeling like death or imminent harm or emotional unsafety, like shame, is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though it's not. But it feels real, and so it's hard for other people to understand that too, because these intrusive thoughts are so unsettling. The body is like an immediate reaction mode to what can I do to make this thought go away,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's miserable. So then that's where the compulsion comes in. The compulsion is the thing that causes a short-term relief from that intrusive thought.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's going to get a COVID test. Okay, you got your answer, short-term relief, and then the next day you can feel like you have it again, right? Like it's not providing like an inner sense of safety or peace for one. The compulsion could be, like I was saying, sometimes some like related to cleanliness, symmetry, or order. It could be I'm going to stack up um, 5 objects on my desk in the row that makes me feel safe, and then that was a compulsion to counter the thought that I was going to fail. It just helped me feel in control when I felt out of control, when I had the intrusive thoughts that I was absolutely going to fail my bar exam or whatever it is. Um, and so the compulsion is the action that tries to quell the disturbance of the intrusive thought. But unfortunately, it only provides short term relief. So it's almost like a drug, like a dopamine hit. Like it just provides this instant response to try to relax your body and get it out of fight or flight. But because it's so short term, the feeling comes back up. No, okay, that test, I just took one test. That could be wrong, or I could have gotten it afterwards. So I need to take another one. So then it's almost like an addiction to the compulsion to try to keep those uncomfortable feelings at bay, because you found that this did make it go away, even for a short period of time. So you can imagine that this can really spiral. And then that's where the disorder part comes in. So that means that the obsessive thinking or the compulsions are taking at least an hour of your day every day. So if every now and then you have intrusive thoughts or you have some compulsive like behavior, maybe Googling or checking your symptoms or any questions about yourself, but it's not every day, it's not all the time, then you don't fully meet that diagnosis. But the D means that it's taking up at least an hour of your day, and a lot of times it means you're experiencing disassociation, depersonalization, derealization, which means when the obsession or compulsion come on, you kind of really lose yourself and you kind of lose a grip on the present moment or reality, and that's what makes it very different too.
Mm-hmm. So so I have a question here. Is therapy really only going to be helpful if it's a disorder? Like, does it need to be do you need to meet criteria for it to be kind of like worth going to therapy for?
No, yeah, absolutely not. I mean, intrusive thoughts are disturbing to anybody, whether you meet the full criteria or not. And or some compulsive behavior can also pop up around generalized anxiety disorder or some depression stuff, some bipolar disorder. Again, you don't even have to have a diagnosis, but some of these patterns, whether it meets the full criteria or not, are also kind of present with some other disorders, especially intrusive thoughts.
Even if you just have a piece of this, even if you just have the obsessions, maybe without
Mm-hmm.
the compulsion, or maybe you do have the O and the C, but maybe it's not taking up an hour a day, it's
Yeah,
taking up 10 minutes once a
sure,
week, whatever.
sure,
It can still be helpful to
totally.
in
Yeah. In fact, it'd be great to go get therapy to help try to not create that pattern and that habitual routine where the kind of compulsion and the obsession and the compulsion cycle takes over and does turn into the diagnosis, which is not a death sentence by any means, but it just takes longer to kind of unravel some of those cycles or kind of turn the notch down.
is sometimes more
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. Totally.
What are some common, I don't know, struggles that you see of clients who have OCD?
Yeah. I feel like the probably two biggest are are struggling with like shame and isolation related to having OCD. A lot of times people know that the intrusive thoughts that they experience don't seem real to other people, and like other people would say, "Yeah, that's not going to happen. If you step on a crack, you're not going to break your mom's back, or whatever it is." But it does feel real to the person with OCD, and even if it doesn't, it feels uncomfortable and embarrassing that they think that way. And so that prevents people from kind of sharing with others what they're going through. But the more it's internalized and not expressed, kind of usually the worse or the more severe the symptoms are. But it's hard to explain, it's hard for people to understand. And then the other struggle is kind of losing time. When people do have the diagnosis of it taking up, a decent amount of their day every day, it's like it is lost time. And that's at least an hour of pure distress every day trying to quell this fight or flight response. And it feels really out of control. And the more it's like tried to be controlled on this, sometimes the worse it feels. And so that's really hard.
Yeah, wow. Well, thank you so much for shedding light on what OCD is and what it's not. And it sounds like there's definitely hope if you think
Totally.
you might have OCD. There's definitely hope to diminish or even like keep from getting really stuck into those patterns. So that's good
Mm-hmm.
news. Sounds like it's
Mm-hmm.
not a death sentence. There's definitely hope. Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, if you are interested in starting therapy for OCD or for something totally different, please reach out to us at landryethridge.com and schedule a consultation with a licensed therapist and get started in therapy today. Thank you so much.